Thank you very much. 5 minutes after 4 o'clock here at Canoe FM. And we are very delighted to have a guest with us this afternoon. R.G.Wright is the gentleman's name. Or do I call you Rob?
You can call me Rob, Mike.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll call you Rob. Rob Wright. And Rob is an author who you live locally.
I do. Yeah.
How long have you lived here in the Highlands?
Close to 30 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a thrill to be here, by the way.
You were back when there were corduroy roads, for goodness sake.
See that? Yeah, with the loggers going by and everything else, right? For sure.
Well, it is really nice to have you here. I had the pleasure of reading your new book called A Long Paddle Home. And, that's it. Hold it up to the camera. But we're doing this on Facebook Live, by the way, so if you want to have a look at Robert's interview, just go to Mike Jaycock on Facebook, and you'll be able to see that. It'll be available online later as well. Now, Robert, one of the things I found really fascinating about your background is that you've been an outdoor educator for nigh on 30 years.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah.
That's a big career in itself.
It is.
How on earth did you get to decide to write a book?
So what happened is every time I did a venue or a group of people, right, I would write short stories. It's just something in me. I would write these short stories.
Really?
So then these short stories would just go and I'd hand them out. And then one short story wasn't supposed to become a book, but it became a book.
Isn't that something?
And so the short story was about the camaraderie that happens when you are in a group of people and you're camping. And that's all it was supposed to be. And next thing you know, I had a novel on my hands.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Now, this whole process of going from a little story to a book, that didn't happen overnight, though.
No, it took me about 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it just kept progressing. I couldn't stop. Once I started writing, like I wrote the short story, and then I wanted to follow these characters. It was almost like I wasn't writing it. It was like I just was transcripting it. You know what I mean?
You were on the journey with them.
It was truly, honestly, yes.
Isn't that
It was
fabulous?
bizarre. It was bizarre, I must say. It was bizarre.
Now, when this story started, did you have any idea of the twists and turns it would take through the book?
Honestly, Mike, none whatsoever. I had no clue.
Wow.
I just wrote. And it's funny. I never had a plot. I didn't have a plot in mind. And it just kept coming. And there was days when I'd write and it just wouldn't happen. So I just gave it up. I just walked away from it. And then the next, I'd be driving or going wherever I'm going, or I'd be listening to something, especially out in the woods, right? I actually wrote it in a teepee, one of my teepees, right? So, yeah, it's quite fascinating how
It's
it happened.
amazing how it came together.
Right.
The story embraces a number of encounters out in the woods and on the lakes.
Right.
And portages as well. Boy, and some of those portages sounded pretty brutal.
They're pretty wild, yeah.
They were pretty wild.
Yeah.
Are any of these from things that you've seen or lived through?
100%. So the stories that you read in this book, not the stories, but the journey that the people take in this book, I absolutely took that journey. Like, I've been on every site that is in this book. I've walked every portage that's in this book. I needed to have firsthand knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely did. And I drew on my 50-plus years of experience in the wilderness and teaching people and, talking to the animals, if you will, not like Dr. Doolittle, but you understand what I mean, right? And, I absolutely drew on that. I mean, the bear claw around my neck is from my best friend, a black bear. So he taught me more stuff than any book could teach me. But the point being is, so all these animals that are in this book, wolves, man, I've had many encounters with wolves, all positive, every single one positive. So they taught me tons too. So they're really heavy in the book.
Now, tell me, in this whole story, there's a lot of activity on the water in canoes. People in canoes, our hero is in a canoe.
Of course.
You obviously love canoeing.
Absolutely.
And this became really a bit of a backbone for the story because it connects so much of the geography.
Right. And the reason I did that, Mike, first and foremost, I absolutely, I live in a canoe. I love it. I'll sleep in a canoe if I can do it, right? But the point being, anyway, regardless, the point being is right? So for me, as I'm paddling, it's almost like every paddle that I take, every pull on that paddle, as it slices through the water, is just taking me to another journey, right? It's just taking me to something I don't know where I'm going to. And the other thing about canoeing, and the reason I used it in the book, is it is an allegory for life. Everybody's paddling their own canoe, right?
That's true.
And the problem is that everybody's carrying baggage. Well, if you have ever done a portage, you don't want to carry baggage, right? So the baggage I'm referring to is our expectations.
How true.
Drop the expectations, and you will be able to carry lightly. So the fella in the book, Stephen, he needs to drop a lot of stuff before he can get through this.
Amen. Amen.
Right.
We'll get to that story in a moment.
Right.
One of the things that jumps out right away is that there are a lot of local place names in the book, and there are places that anybody that reads this, certainly in our geographical area, will be able to relate to it. Did the knowledge of the geography help the story?
Without question. I know it intimately, like the back of my hand. I needed to promote our gorgeous area that we live in. I need to promote it. Not only promote it, protect it, right? I wanted people to love it. So they can, when they read this book, they can walk to every single site and every trail in this book, and it is exactly as depicted in the book. Exactly. So
there's quite a cast of characters in your book. Oh boy, oh boy. We meet some good ones and some bad ones, some very bad ones actually.
That's true.
And these characters, did any of these come out of your experience in the forest and camping, canoeing?
More so with my interactions with people through my teaching. I've met a myriad of people. And so I purposely wrote the book so that the characters in the book, any reader that reads this book will be able to superimpose the faces of people in their lives on the characters of the book. I did it purposely. I absolutely did it purposely. And I basically, did I draw from my experiences? Without question. Absolutely, without question.
Yeah. Because when I got to some of those parts where there were some rather nasty people.
Yep.
And people that we would all vilify for
100%.
what they do out in the wilderness. And I thought to myself, I wonder if Rob has had encounters of that nature.
I have. I absolutely have. And yeah, the things that transpire in the book, they are, well, seriously, it's a piece of fiction. But aside from that, there are very real encounters within this book that I've interceded that are just under the guise of Stephen Stiles.
Right. Now, Stephen, your hero, I'll call him a hero. He is the main protagonist in the book, but he's not really a hero.
He's just a guy.
He's a guy who's living the story, so to speak.
Correct.
How did you form this guy?
Stephen Stiles is a very reclusive person.
Yeah.
Right? He prefers the company of animals over people.
He'd like to sleep in a canoe.
100%, right? So I guess a lot of me is in Stephen, but however, the point is that with Stephen, in order to survive what he has to survive, he's going to have to learn to trust people, and more importantly, trust himself. See, in truth, he's hiding from himself. So he has to trust himself in order to embrace people. So the very first chapter in this book, he all of a sudden meets some people who he absolutely just falls in with.
Yeah.
And he's like flabbergasted by the whole thing. So it's like, how did this happen? Right? So it's in order for him to survive what's coming in this book, he must embrace these people. He has to.
One of the exciting undertones throughout the whole book, and a major part of it, is this mysterious entity that is moving through the woods and through the dark, and what is that mysterious entity all about?
Okay, without giving too much away, all right. I can't give too much away on this.
No. We want people
to
buy the book.
The entity is. I never put a face to it because I want people to put their own faces on it, whatever it might be. But what it is it is something which challenges Stephen's version of reality, right? And it's I can say that the entity is a physical manifestation of the power of the wilderness.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, so it's a physical manifestation of what the conglomerate whole is.
I can buy that.
All right.
Yeah. The manifestation, and you're right, I did. I put an entity to it, but it wasn't a perfected image that I had. I had a general image of what this was happening. And it provides some very exciting and very surprising moments through the book, which obviously add to the not just the enjoyment, but the surprise of the story.
Right. Yeah. That was purposely done. Yeah. I wanted to take you literally on a life journey. This all takes place over a 2-month period of time.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get you into that world, and that's the world that you and I both live right here. I mean, there's stuff that takes place in Minden. There's stuff that takes place in Dorset. There's certain events that take place at the Frost Center, which I changed the name to, but regardless, the point being is, so there's many, many different things that take place.
Now, your hero, Stephen, he is very challenged to understand this entity that is out there, as you say, and he's being challenged by it. Is any of this rooted in indigenous lore?
For sure. Okay? Every indigenous culture, including the European culture, they all had creatures that wandered just outside of our eyesight. Some were evil, and some were neither or, and some were here to teach. Right? So they really didn't fit any known description of any animal. They just didn't fit it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So with I guess with the native side of things, if I may, there is a complete and utter belief that everything is connected.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything is connected, including the moon, the stars, the sun. So and this is sort of that thing that moves through it all.
Yeah. And I felt that in the book, and I liked that part about it. I really felt a comfort with that part of the storytelling.
Well, thanks.
Now, this is a great mystery book. Like, it's got a good mystery to it. It's got a love story, and it's got some real life human interactions that are pretty bold at times. What would you like people to take away after having read the book, besides the fact that it's a good read and it's a good mystery?
I would say that I wrote the book as if it was a movie, right? I want people to put themselves in that movie. I want them to ask themselves the question, what would I do if faced with the same questions? So life-altering questions. Right? What would you do?
Yeah.
Do you stay static, or do you actually take the paddle and go and move down that trail? Like, is that what you're going to do? And if you're going to do that, it's the only way you're going to grow.
Right.
So that's what I want people to take from this. I want them to, and another point of this, even though it's got some really scary moments in it, I want people to stop being afraid of the woods. I just do. I mean, I don't know how you felt about it after you read it, but I mean, I just want people to stop being afraid of the woods. Understand that they are just part of it. They're not against it. They're just part of it.
Well, it is a very satisfying read, and I wonder, how has the response to the book been?
Okay, I was incredibly nervous about publishing this book, and the reason being it was published by Tellwell, which is out in BC, and even they had to talk me into it, because I was like, I was nervous because I wasn't sure how people were going to take my version of the wilderness. Now, I've spent my life in the wilderness, so I wasn't sure how they were going to take to it, right? And so I was literally nervous about it. And then all of a sudden, something just clicked, and I said, just do it. What are you waiting for? So I let it go. I put it out there, and what's fascinating is I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I did it because it's been cool.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
And the reaction, I gather, has been positive as well.
It has been. You know what? And I'm absolutely flabbergasted by it. I like to consider myself relatively meek. I'm like Steven, you know what I mean? Like, why don't you just hide? All right. But anyway, regardless, the point being is, I've had nothing but positive reviews.
Right?
And you know, which is, and I must say this, it's almost like I didn't write the book. I did, but it's almost like I didn't write it. It's like it just came through me. And I know that might sound weird, but that's how it was. And so, when people, it's been nothing but positive reviews, so much so that, this is actually the third part of 4 books. This is the only one I had the courage to publish. So if this one does all right, then I will push out the next one, which is the sequel to A Long Paddle Home. I'm not going to put the title out yet, but I want people to follow Stephen and his companions further, right? We'll see how this one does.
Excellent.
Right.
How exciting for you.
Yeah, it is. It's great.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's more exciting to be sitting here with you.
Well, come on.
It's incredible. I mean it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Now, let's tell people how they can get a copy of the book.
Absolutely. Amazon.ca.
Huh?
It's on Indigo. It's on Barnes & Noble.
Wow.
I believe it's on, it's in the UK through, I believe it's through the Book Depository. And I have heard people say that they have purchased it directly through Chapters and through Kohl's.
Excellent.
So, right.
That's very thrilling all around, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
It is. And I just love the fact that people are really taking to Stephen. They're really taking to Stephen. They're really taking to the other characters in the book. So it's really great.
You know, you've got to be careful because, you know, with this kind of early acceptance and support, you might want to sleep in a bed instead of a canoe.
That's so awesome. Yeah. Well, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Robert,
Yeah,
thanks for joining us this afternoon. Congratulations. It really is a fascinating read. And for all the reasons we've just discussed, it's like a good meal, you know, like it really,
Mike.
really is
High praise indeed.
a great story.
Thank you.
And I love the mysticism that's a part of it. Stephen, at times, I think he's a bit of a doughhead, you know, but as you say, he kind of plods forward and gets there. Mm-hmm. It's a great book. A Long Paddle Home is the name of the book, and the author is Robert Wright, and he's been our guest this afternoon. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, you've been wonderful, Mike. Thanks ever so much for having me.
Great to meet you.
Wonderful.
Really
great
good.
meeting you, too.
Time is now 23 minutes after 4 o'clock here at Canoe FM.